The city of Ardentis floated high above the molten world of Kilora, its towers shining with neon lights and metal walkways stretching over glowing chasms. From above, it looked like a jewel in the dark sky, but down in the lower decks, life was harsh. Fires burned in abandoned sectors, and the smell of smoke mixed with hot metal. Most humans here struggled to survive, while the elite lived in luxury above, barely noticing the suffering beneath. Liam Varner moved silently through the corridors of Skyspire Academy, pushing his mop through pools of water and spilled chemicals. The job was lonely, thankless, and exhausting, but it gave him a purpose even if small. He had learned to move fast, to think ahead, and to notice things that others ignored. Today, though, the usual routine felt different. Something heavy hung in the air like the warning before a storm. The first hint came as a roar, distant at first, then closer. A deep, trembling sound that made the metal floors vibrate beneath his boots. Liam froze. He had heard stories, legends passed down in hushed whispers. The dragon princess of Kilora, Valeria, protector of the skies, feared and admired by all, now seen weak, near death. No one dared approach her, not even the city's soldiers or drone operators. The council debated endlessly, arguing over risk and authority, but no action came. Liam's heart pounded. He was just a janitor. He had no weapons, no training, no power. But something in him stirred, something he could not ignore. The roar came again, closer this time, echoing through the empty hallways of the lower levels. Curiosity mixed with fear. He glanced around, checking that no supervisors or drones were near. Then, almost instinctively, he started moving toward the sound. The lower docks were dark, cold, and abandoned. Broken crates and scorched machinery littered the metal floors. Sparks from damaged energy lines flickered intermittently, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. And there, at the end of the corridor, he saw her. Valeria lay collapsed on the cold metal, her scales dull, eyes half closed, chest rising and falling with effort. She was immense, her wings folded awkwardly at her sides, shimmering faintly like dying embers. Liam had never seen a dragon up close, and yet the sight filled him with awe and fear. She was magnificent, terrifying, and vulnerable all at once. He swallowed hard. One wrong step and she could crush him without thinking. Yet, looking into her tired eyes, he felt a strange connection. This wasn't just a creature in need, it was a living being fighting for survival. Liam knew what he had to do, even if he didn't fully understand how. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small ration pack, barely enough for himself. His hands trembled as he knelt near her head. Valeria twitched, opening her eyes wider, watching him cautiously. She could sense his presence, his intent. The energy in the room shifted. The faint glow of her scales brightened slightly, as if she recognized he meant no harm. "Here," Liam whispered, offering the pack. "You need this." Valeria sniffed, and a low growl vibrated from deep in her throat. She was proud, imperious, and untrusting, but hunger and weakness softened her instinct to attack. Liam carefully tore the pack open, placing tiny bites near her mouth. She hesitated, then nibbled. The sound of crunching filled the cavern, startling in the stillness. The moment was tense. Every footstep, every spark from the broken wires, could trigger a defense protocol. Security drones had been patrolling these decks but had retreated hours earlier when the area was deemed dangerous. Yet Liam knew they could return at any second. One wrong move and he might be caught, or worse, Valeria could panic. Still he continued. Bite by bite, he fed her, talking quietly, reassuring her with simple words. "It's okay. You're safe. You can trust me." His voice was soft but firm. She tilted her massive head, watching him as if deciding whether to believe him. The glow of her scales returned in faint pulses, a sign she was gaining strength. Suddenly, the sound of metal scraping against the floor echoed from above. Liam's pulse spiked. Drones or guards, he didn't know which. Valeria's ears twitched. Her wings twitched in response. The danger was real. He had no choice but to act fast. He slid behind a fallen crate, keeping the ration pack ready, his mind racing for a plan. If anyone discovered her here, she would be captured. And if she was captured, her life, and the hope of the city's people who still believed in the dragons, might end. Liam realized then that this wasn't just about feeding a dying creature. It was about defying fear, challenging authority, and doing what was right when everyone else stood frozen. He peeked from behind the crate, scanning the corridor. The scraping sound grew louder, echoing off the metal walls. Liam's heart thudded, but determination replaced fear. He had a choice: retreat and leave her to die, or stay and protect her with whatever courage he could muster. He whispered to Valeria, "Hold on." Don't give up. I'll help you. Her eyes flickered with recognition, or maybe hope. The sound above grew nearer and Liam clenched his fists. He didn't know what was coming, guards, drones, or some unknown threat, but he would not let fear stop him. As the first shadow appeared at the corridor's entrance, Liam took a deep breath, ready to act. The city above might ignore suffering, the council might hesitate, but he would not. One human, a janitor, could still make a difference. And this was only the beginning. Liam pressed himself against the crate, heart hammering in his chest. The shadow in the corridor was not a drone. It was a patrol officer, moving cautiously, scanning the area with a handheld energy scanner. Sparks from the broken overhead wiring reflected off his helmet as he paused, eyes narrowing. Every second counted. If the officer spotted Valeria, they would fire immediately, treating her as a threat. He swallowed hard. Retreating would mean abandoning her. That was unthinkable. Yet moving now carried equal risk. He scanned the space, noting fallen crates, low-hanging pipes, and broken walkways. His janitor's instincts, cleaning, observing, navigating obstacles, suddenly felt like training for this impossible moment. Slowly he whispered to Valeria, "Stay down. Don't move until I say." She shifted slightly, her massive body trembling, but obeyed, lowering her head to the floor. Her scales shimmered faintly in the flickering light, signaling life, but she was still weak. The officer took a cautious step forward, scanning again. Liam's mind raced. He remembered a maintenance hatch nearby, just behind a pile of discarded machinery. It was small, just big enough for a human, but maybe he could lure the officer there. Carefully, he grabbed a piece of loose metal from the floor and tossed it toward the hatch. The clatter echoed loudly. The officer's head snapped toward the sound. Liam's pulse spiked. He made a decision. Distraction was necessary. Another piece of metal flew across the corridor. The officer moved toward the noise, giving Liam a sliver of time. He crept closer to Valeria, crouching low, and whispered, "We need to move. You can fly, but we must be careful. Follow my lead." She tilted her head, nostrils flaring as she sensed his intent. Liam unrolled a makeshift harness from his satchel, straps and ropes scavenged from storage areas, and moved carefully to attach it to her forelimbs. Valeria growled softly, her wings twitching nervously. Any sudden movement and they could both be killed. "Easy," Liam murmured, pressing his palm against her scaled chest. He had read about dragon behavior, studied old manuals and legends, and knew this might work if he stayed calm. The princess's golden eyes watched him, testing his courage, measuring his intent. Slowly she allowed him to secure the harness. The officer had nearly reached the end of the corridor when Liam noticed a loose panel overhead. He gritted his teeth, pulled the lever, and a shower of sparks and smoke fell just behind the officer. Coughing and startled, the patrolman stumbled back. Liam seized the moment. "Go," he whispered urgently to Valeria. She obeyed, her massive wings unfurling with effort. The first flap sent a gust of air that knocked Liam off balance, but he held tight to the harness. Sparks flew as her wings brushed the low ceiling. Every movement required precision. One miscalculation could crush him or trigger alarms. As they ascended, the heat from Kilora's molten surface washed over them. Liam clung to the harness, feeling the power in her muscles, the strength of a creature built to dominate the skies. The city's neon towers grew smaller below, smoke and debris blending with the clouds of ash. The patrol officer's shouts echoed faintly, impotent against the roar of Valeria's wings. But danger was far from over. Drones appeared, scanning the open sky with searchlights. Liam could see their energy beams cutting through the night, ready to target anything that moved too fast. Valeria's wings began to tire. Liam pressed against her scales, whispering encouragement. "You're stronger than this. You can make it." His words were not just comfort, they were a lifeline. The first drone fired a warning pulse. Valeria flinched, veering sharply. Liam had to calculate quickly. Too sharp a turn and they'd crash into the city's outer barriers. Too slow and they'd be hit. His mind raced, calculating angles, speed, timing, using every ounce of human logic and courage he had. "Trust me," he yelled over the roar of her wings. She seemed to understand. Together they maneuvered, darting through gaps between towers, twisting around energy pylons, ducking below floating transport lanes. Sparks flew from collision alarms and the drone struggled to keep up. Every heartbeat was a gamble, but Liam refused to falter. Valeria's breathing grew heavier, her wing muscles quivering. Liam knew she couldn't maintain this flight much longer. He searched desperately, scanning the horizon for a safe landing place. Then he spotted it, An abandoned maintenance platform jutting out over the molten chasm, far enough from city defenses. He shouted directions, guiding her. The landing was tense. Valeria's massive claws scraped metal as she descended, sparks flying. Liam held on, bracing for impact. With a final thud, she landed, shaking from exhaustion but alive. He slid from the harness, breathing heavily, feeling the heat of the molten world below and the weight of what they had survived. For a moment, silence reigned. The city lights blinked in the distance, drones patrolled above, and Valeria lay panting, wings spread wide, looking at Liam with what seemed like gratitude. But the danger was not gone. The council would not leave her alive for long, and the city would send more drones, more patrols, more threats. Liam knew the real challenge was just beginning. Feeding her had been one thing. Keeping her alive and free would require courage, intelligence, and every ounce of determination he possessed. He knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her scaled chest. "We're not done yet," he whispered. Valeria's golden eyes met his, flickering with understanding. Together they would face the city above, its rules, its drones, and its fear of the impossible. And Liam knew one truth that steadied him. Even a single human, armed with courage and cleverness, could change the course of destiny. Liam crouched beside Valeria on the abandoned platform, sweat mixing with the grime on his face. Her breathing had slowed slightly, but she was far from fully recovered. Every movement of her massive wings reminded him that they were both vulnerable. Above them, the distant hum of drones continued, like an unrelenting heartbeat of the city. They could not stay here for long. He studied the horizon. Beyond the glowing towers of Ardentes, there was a gap in the patrol routes, a narrow path that led to the outer cliffs, a place no city official would expect anyone to reach. But the distance was great, and Valeria's strength was limited. He would need a plan that relied not on brute force but on intelligence and cunning. "Listen," Liam said, speaking softly to the Dragon Princess. "We can't outrun the city forever. We need to trick them." His fingers moved over a small data pad in his satchel, hacked from the Academy's maintenance terminal earlier that week. He had little experience with drones, but he had learned the basics from discarded manuals and late-night tinkering. He could override some of their simple patrol routines. Valeria tilted her head, nostrils flaring. She sensed his intent. Liam's courage and confidence seemed to reach her mind in ways words could not. He tapped the data pad, fingers moving quickly, overriding drone flight paths and sensor loops. The glowing screen reflected in his eyes, a small digital battlefield in which he would gamble everything for their survival. He tested a small signal first, sending a drone away from their position. The machine blinked, hesitated, then veered off course. Liam let out a quiet breath. It worked. If he could manage all the drone's minor adjustments without them detecting it, they could escape undetected. But as he focused, a new danger emerged. The platform's structural integrity was worse than he realized. One wing beat from Valeria sent a tremor through the rusted metal. A loose support cable snapped with a shrill ping, sending sparks flying. Liam's heart leapt. A collapse here would throw them both into the molten river below. He grabbed a nearby chain, bracing against the trembling edge. "Careful," he murmured, glancing at Valeria. "We have to conserve your strength." She lowered her massive head, understanding his warning. Even a dragon could sense the stakes. They were not playing for glory but for survival. Liam's mind raced. If the drones discovered them mid-flight, the city would send reinforcements, armed with pulse cannons and containment nets. There was no chance of outrunning them at full power. He had to rely on strategy, deception, and timing. The idea hit him suddenly, a decoy. He could create a holographic copy of Valeria's outline to distract the drones while she moved along the cliffs. He rummaged through his satchel and pulled out a small hollow projector, a device meant for teaching simulations. It was crude but sufficient. He set it on the edge of the platform, aiming the projection toward the approaching patrol lights. The glowing silhouette of a dragon shimmered, slightly distorted but convincing enough from a distance. As the first drone approached, Liam activated the projector. The machine paused, analyzing the image, then moved toward it. Liam's pulse raced. It worked, but only partially. Another drone, faster and smarter, was already descending from above, its sensors sharper than he had anticipated. Valeria hissed, a low, frustrated sound. She was growing impatient, but Liam kept talking, using his calm voice as a lifeline. "One step at a time. We can do this. Just follow my lead." She obeyed, her massive wings tensing, ready to leap when the moment came. Then came the real twist. A faint vibration under Liam's boots. He froze. Not from fear but realization. The platform wasn't as abandoned as it seemed. Another figure emerged from the shadows. A scavenger from the lower city sectors, someone Liam recognized from the docks. She carried a small energy cutter and looked equally terrified of Valeria. Liam's mind raced. This new human could be friend or foe. If she alerted the authorities, their chance of escape would vanish. But if she helped, even slightly, it could make the difference between life and death. He stepped forward cautiously. "Don't move," Liam said firmly, positioning himself between Valeria and the newcomer. "We're not enemies. I need your help." The scavenger hesitated, eyes darting between Liam and the dragon. She swallowed hard. I can help, but if the city finds out." "Then we move fast," Liam interrupted. "We have no time for fear." His voice carried something stronger than logic. Conviction, courage, a stubborn refusal to give up. Valeria's wings twitched in agreement, a silent acknowledgement that they would trust him, even in the face of the unknown. Together they began to prepare for the next move. The scavenger handed Liam extra straps and cables, while he adjusted Valeria's harness for flight. Drones blinked in the distance, still fooled by the hologram, but more would come soon. Every second counted. Liam took a deep breath. He was still just a janitor, still unarmed against city security, still facing impossible odds. But he had courage, cleverness, and determination. That, he realized, could be as powerful as any weapon. Valeria shifted, testing her wings, muscles still weak but regaining power. Liam whispered again, "We leave at the first opening. Trust me. We survive together." Her golden eyes met his, a silent promise of partnership. Above the city, drones began to converge again, faster and more precise this time. Liam felt the weight of responsibility not just for himself but for Valeria, for the scavenger, and for everyone who still believed humans could rise above fear. This moment would decide everything. Either they would escape or the city would reclaim them, and no dragon would forgive treachery. Liam's heart pounded, but his mind was sharp. Courage alone would not be enough. He needed brilliance, daring, and perfect timing. The city below had rules. Technology had power. But Liam Varner, human, janitor, and now unlikely hero, was about to show that courage, cleverness, and determination could rewrite the rules entirely. He glanced at Valeria. Her wings flexed, her eyes brightened, and Liam knew this was the turning point. What happened next would decide not just their lives, but the fate of Ardentis itself. Liam clung to the harness as Valeria stretched her wings, lifting them both into the air. The platform below shrank instantly, becoming a tiny speck in the molten glow of Kilora. Sparks flew from broken metal, and the wind roared against his ears, but he refused to panic. Every second in the sky was a test of courage and control. The city drones swarmed higher, scanning the night with piercing beams. Liam squinted through the haze, calculating their paths. He knew they couldn't outrun every patrol, not for long. He needed a plan fast. His fingers worked over the straps, adjusting Valeria's harness to keep balance as she flapped powerfully, though still weak from starvation. "Steady," he shouted, his voice nearly lost in the roar of wings and wind. Valeria's scales shimmered, glowing faintly as her energy returned. She understood him, not as a human who fed her, but as a partner who believed in her. For the first time, Liam realized that trust could be more powerful than any weapon. The first drone fired a warning pulse, a thin line of energy slicing the sky. Valeria flinched but angled her body, dodging with surprising speed. Liam pressed against her scales, whispering, "You've got this. Just a little further." He knew the city would escalate quickly if they were detected. One hit could destroy her fragile strength, one miscalculation could send them both into the molten river below. Liam's mind worked furiously. He noticed the energy beams were consistent, timed precisely. Using what he had learned from the hacked datapad, he calculated their intervals, then guided Valeria through a narrow gap between two patrol ships. Sparks flew as her wings brushed a shield generator, but she held steady. Every movement required perfect coordination. One false flap, one hesitation, and they would be dead. As they reached the edge of the patrol zone, Liam saw a faint glow on the horizon, the outer cliffs. It was their only safe landing point, untouched by the city's drones and away from the council's surveillance. But it was still far, and Valeria's wings were tiring. He pressed his forehead against her neck, whispering encouragement. "Almost there. You can make it." Then came the real test. A drone swooped in from above, faster and more precise than the others. Liam realized it wasn't just following patrol patterns, it was hunting, adapting, predicting. Valeria hissed, frustration and fear mingling in the sound. Liam's heart leapt, but he knew panic would be fatal. He grabbed the straps, leaning close. "Follow my lead. Trust me." Valeria's wings flapped harder, her body twisting through the air with precision only a dragon could manage. Liam calculated the drone's speed, angle, and timing, instructing her in rapid bursts. "Left now. Duck." He barely had time to breathe. The drone fired another warning pulse, slicing a streak through the clouds. Valeria twisted, narrowly avoiding it, her scales sparking with residual energy. Liam's hands ached from gripping the harness, but he held on. Every movement, every calculation was a gamble, but one they had to win. A sudden updraft lifted them higher, pushing them toward the neon towers of Ardentis. The city below erupted with alarms. Spotlights scanned the sky, and citizens paused, staring in awe at the human riding a dragon. Liam's heart sank and soared at the same time. He wasn't a hero, not by their standards, yet here he was, defying authority, defying logic, and surviving. "Almost there," he muttered, voice hoarse. Valeria's wings quivered, muscles screaming in fatigue. He adjusted the harness straps, distributing weight carefully, whispering calculations and encouragement. "Use the updraft. Hold steady." Her massive body obeyed, defying exhaustion, following his lead. They passed over the last patrol ship. Liam glanced down to see drones snapping to adjust course, but the holographic decoy he had deployed earlier distracted most of them. Only one remained in pursuit, but it was slower, less precise. Valeria's roar cut through the night, a warning that humans and dragons were not to be trifled with. Finally, the outer cliffs rose ahead, a jagged line of metal and stone, untouched by the city's rules. Liam guided Valeria in, calculating a safe landing point among the outcroppings. Her wings flexed, adjusting for the landing. Sparks flew as her claws scraped the cliff edges, but she touched down safely. Liam slid from the harness, gasping for air, his muscles trembling from the effort. For a moment, silence fell. Below, the city glowed like a distant jewel. Above, the sky was calm, empty of drones. Valeria lowered her massive head, her golden eyes fixed on Liam. There was a weight in that gaze, not just gratitude but recognition. She was alive, yes, but more than that, she had survived because of him. Liam collapsed beside her, heart pounding. He was still a janitor, still human, still ordinary by every other measure. Yet in this moment he realized the truth. Courage, intelligence, and determination could make a human extraordinary. Even against impossible odds, even against a city designed to suppress and control, one human could change everything. The scavenger who had helped earlier crept up, eyes wide with awe. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. Liam gave a tired smile, brushing soot and sweat from his face. "Neither had I," he said. "But we can't stop yet. They'll send more drones." Valeria shifted, wings folding around them protectively. The climb, the flight, the danger, it was not over. But now, for the first time, they had hope. They had survived the city's defenses, defied its rules, and proven that a human's courage could rival any machine, any power, any force designed to control. Liam looked out over the horizon. The outer cliffs stretched endlessly, a world beyond the city, a world where survival meant ingenuity, bravery, and heart. And he knew they would face the city again, but now they would face it together, stronger, smarter, and unstoppable. A faint pulse in the distance hinted at what was coming next. Reinforcements, patrols, perhaps even elite squads sent to reclaim the dragon. But Liam no longer feared. With Valeria by his side and his courage guiding every choice, he knew that even the impossible could be overcome. They had flown above the clouds, survived the city's hunt, and reached safety, for now. And that safety was only the beginning. The outer cliffs were silent now, the glow of Ardentis distant but still visible, like a world they had escaped only temporarily. Liam collapsed on the jagged metal, gasping, muscles trembling from exertion. Valeria settled beside him, wings folded protectively, her golden eyes fixed on him as if she were trying to understand the human who had dared to defy an entire city. For a long moment they just breathed. The molten world below cast flickering reflections across her scales, illuminating the scars of hunger and exhaustion. Liam could feel the enormity of what they had survived. Drones, patrols, treacherous terrain, and his own doubts. But they were alive. She was alive. And against impossible odds they had succeeded together. "Never thought I'd see a human up close like this," Valeria murmured, her voice low but commanding in the ancient draconic tongue Liam had barely learned. He smiled weakly, brushing soot and sweat from his face. "Well, I never thought I'd be flying on a dragon's back either. Guess life surprises us." A distant hum reached their ears, smaller drones, faster this time, signaling the city had noticed her absence. Liam's mind raced. They couldn't stay here forever. If the council learned Valeria had survived, they would send more than drones. They would send soldiers, enforcers, and maybe even elite hunters to capture her. He pressed his forehead to hers, speaking softly. We need a plan, Valeria. They won't stop looking. Her massive wings flexed, brushing the cliff edge. Liam realized she had regained strength quickly, her hunger now replaced by determination. I can fly faster than they can follow. You'll ride with me and together we'll find a place where they cannot reach. Her roar echoed across the cliffs, a challenge to the city below, and Liam felt a surge of hope. He climbed onto her back carefully, securing the harness once more. Every step was deliberate, every movement counted. As she lifted off, Liam glanced down at the glowing city. The patrols swarmed like insects, but they were too late. The human courage, ingenuity, and determination that had carried them this far had already rewritten the rules. Their flight was swift and daring. Valeria weaved through rocky outcrops and molten rivers, her wings beating steadily against the thick heat of the atmosphere. Liam guided her over hidden valleys, under jagged peaks, and through narrow passes only he had noticed during their earlier scavenging. He whispered calculations constantly, left here, up there, steady, don't overextend. Every instruction kept them alive, every second of human intelligence matched her raw power. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The outer cliffs led them far from Ardentis, into a range of volcanic ridges abandoned by humans long ago. Here the drones could not follow, sensors would fail, and the city's authority held no sway. Valeria landed carefully on a wide plateau, flames flickering in the cracks beneath her massive claws. She shook the heat from her wings, eyes glimmering with newfound life. Liam slid down beside her, exhausted but exhilarated. We made it, he said quietly. She lowered her head, nudging him gently, and for the first time, Liam saw her not as a predator or a legend, but as a companion. Together they had survived the impossible. But their journey had consequences. Word of the dragon's escape spread quickly through Ardentis. Citizens whispered of the janitor who had defied drones, patrols, and protocol to save a creature long believed untouchable. Rumors circulated of human courage that rivaled even the city's best soldiers. And slowly, quietly, the people began to realize something fundamental. Humans, even the most ordinary, could change destiny. Liam watched the city glow from a distance, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. He had no desire for fame, no craving for recognition. But knowing that his courage had inspired others, that his choices had proven humanity could rise above fear and cruelty, filled him with a quiet strength he had never known before. Valeria spread her wings, preparing to patrol the cliffs for threats. Liam stayed close, improvising a small camp from scavenged supplies. They were safe for now, but the council would not forget and the city would not forgive. He knew their fight had only just begun. Yet he also knew that courage, ingenuity, and determination, human qualities often overlooked, could shape the outcome of battles that seemed impossible. Over the next days, Valeria regained full strength, feeding on the wild energy currents of the cliffs while Liam crafted tools and devices from salvaged materials. Every small invention, every clever trick, was another guarantee of survival. They trained together, human and dragon, preparing for the inevitable confrontation with the city that had once controlled them both. Finally, one evening, as the molten rivers glowed beneath the cliffs, Valeria looked down at Liam with golden eyes that seemed almost human in their understanding. You saved me, she said softly. Not just my life but my freedom. Liam shook his head. We saved each other. You gave me purpose, Valeria. You showed me what courage can do. And in that moment, both realized something profound. The city of Ardentis, with all its rules, drones, and authority, had underestimated one thing above all: human potential. One janitor, armed with courage, determination, and a refusal to give up, had rewritten the course of a kingdom, saved a legendary dragon, and reminded the world that even the smallest human could become extraordinary. As night fell over the cliffs, they watched the distant city, knowing they had survived not just because of strength or chance, but because of heart, intelligence, and unyielding bravery. The dragon princess was alive. The human was no longer ordinary. And together they had created a story that would echo across Ardentis forever. The kingdom below had been shocked by a simple meal, but the world above would soon learn the truth. Humans, when they chose courage over fear, could accomplish the impossible.